Is the world falling apart or finally showing its seams? What if collapse isn't chaos? What if it's clarity? Not a crash, but a slow peeling back of layers, of illusions, of everything we pretend was solid. You feel it, don't you? Not just in the headlines, not just in the scroll of disasters, but something deeper, something quieter. A hum beneath the surface of everything. It's in the way institutions stutter, in the way cities feel emptier, even when they are full, in the silence that follows every trending outrage, in the fatigue behind every new beginning. We are told the world is breaking, but maybe it was always cracked. Maybe we're just finally close enough to see the seams. Civil unrest doesn't explode, it cascades. Like dominoes, like tension building in the fault line. Like one loose thread that when pulled takes the whole garment with it. Civilization doesn't always collapse like a Hollywood ending. Sometimes it unravels like a forgotten memory, bit by bit. The center doesn't hold, because maybe there is no center, not anymore. We're standing on shared ground that no longer feels shared. The words we use don't mean the same things. Truth isn't a place we meet anymore. It's a weapon, a costume, a brand. And we scroll through it: wars, protests, new laws, new fears. New influencers of the end times. But underneath the noise is a strange, almost sacred silence. The kind that comes when something big has shifted, but no one can name it yet. So what are we really watching? A breakdown of systems or a revelation? Maybe the curtain isn't falling not on one act, but on the whole play. Maybe what we are seeing isn't the death of a world, but the truth of it. This was never stable, never sustainable, never shared. We dressed it up in rituals, markets, elections, content calendars, retreats. But behind the screens and speeches was always something trembling, and now the veil is thin. Immigration surges, borders blur, cities burn, institutions flicker. Still, the story remains. We were told to obey the frame. But the frame is cracking, not out of rage, out of pressure, out of time, out of a quiet refusal to keep pretending. Unraveling isn't failure, it's exposure. When the threads come loose, we begin to see what held everything together, and more importantly, what didn't. What were we stitching ourselves to? Who are we holding in place? And who was always outside the frame? This unraveling isn't just global, it's deeply personal. You feel it in your nervous system. The anxious scroll, the quiet dread, the way friends vanish into ideological tunnels, the way no one seems sure what's real anymore, the rise of stimulation over substance, the loneliness, the longing. You notice the mood shifts online, the hyperbole, the glitches, the daily moral panics, the way pain is monetized and empathy is gamified. And beneath it all, something deeper, a growing suspicion that what we are living through isn't just crisis, it's metamorphosis. Prophetism isn't about predicting the future, it's about feeling its pressure point before they burst. It's about decoding the fault lines before they break wide open. This isn't about returning to normal, it's about defining what should have never been normal to begin with. We don't need another escape fantasy, we need attention to each other, to the patterns, to the systems, to the stitchwork that held this together, and the spaces where it never did. It's not just about a movement, it's about exposure. Immigration is a friction point between legacy and disruption. It exposes what happens when old boundaries meet new realities. And that tension unsettles everything we thought was fixed. The borders we drew on maps are no longer holding, and the narrators of order, identity, and control are straining under pressure. This isn't about left or right, it's about recognizing that when people move, the myth we live by are tested, and many are failing. Do we reinforce what once held the story together, or do we redesign it with limits, clarity, and consequence? Here's the truth. The seams were always there. We just couldn't see them until now. Because once the illusion dissolves, what's left is real. Even if it's raw, even if it hurts, even if it whispers instead of shouts, especially then. Unraveling doesn't just destroy systems, it exposes them. It lets us study the stitchwork, trace the patterns, and decide what thread we want to carry forward. This is not about nostalgia, this is about vision, because we are not going back, and maybe we shouldn't. The old world was beautiful in places, but it was also stitched together with spectacle, hierarchy, and separation. Today, we sit in the aftermath of broken blueprints, of systems optimized for power, not people, of cultures flattened into content, of politics turned into performance. And still, here we are, watching, feeling, creating. Because art doesn't fix the world, it reveals it, and maybe, just maybe, that's the first step toward a different kind of repair. So let me ask you this. When you look around, what do you see unraveling? And what thread do you feel responsible for holding on to? Drop a thought in the comments, even a single sentence. Your voice adds dimension to the silence. If this struck something inside you, subscribe or sit with it a little longer. And if you're curious about the visuals, they are part of the world I'm building beyond the screen. You can see more of my work at TOMAAS.com. This is part of the TOMAAS prophecies, cinematic essays that don't just reflect the world but read between its fractures. Through layered visual and emotional pattern recognition, we practice prophetism, a new way of seeing. Here, it translates what we haven't yet learned to name. Because by the time everyone understands the shift, it already happened.